Talk Detroit Lions because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, they put a wallop on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and a lot of people thought that was supposed to be a competitive game. The Jaguars were playing hot lately too. Trevor Lawrence had been one of the highest rated quarterbacks in the last couple of weeks,
Mhm.
and 40-14, they won in special teams. I mean, Justin Jackson had some great returns in that game. Obviously, the offense scored 8 out of 8 possessions, except for the one where they kneeled the ball twice with
Yeah,
Sudfeld,
they did not punt.
and then defensively, just played a lot of lockdown. Had some bend don't break moments, but a lot of lockdown defense with
Mhm.
some key turnovers. It looks like they were going to get ran down their throat with ETN, and then they had the fumble where he just ran right into Sean Elliott's arms, and Sean
Yeah.
stripped it, and Anzalone recovered it.
Uh,
So, it was just a really positive thing, and we had been talking about the Lions too the last couple of weeks. You see exactly what Taylor Decker said. This isn't the same old Lions, you
No,
know. And I think they're proof. They've played multiple games now this year where it seems like they've controlled the game the whole game. They've had a couple where it's like, yeah, you lose some and they sting. But I think actually reality hits. Every team has that every year. And
Mhm.
so the fact that it's happening, let's say, more infrequently, is a positive.
Yeah, I think you can see the growth. You can see they're getting healthy. This will be the healthiest. This upcoming week will be the healthiest they have been all year for the most part. The healthiest they will be probably. Um, it's good to see. I think the defense has figured out a way to dial it back. Right, they don't have the. They can still be aggressive but not absurd. Right.
Mhm.
And that's what they were early on. And I think Aaron Glenn's gotten better. I don't know if, some of that was just getting Aubrey Pleasant off I mean,
It's got to be a culture fit, right? Is that a
right,
culture thing?
right,
Because one coach, I don't think can that draft, especially as like a position
right,
assistant coach, can that
right.
drastically?
Aubrey Pleasant wasn't calling the defense, right? So I think
Yeah,
Aaron Glenn just kind of he changed what he was doing, right? I think they went into that bye week and they were like, all right, like we gotta fix some stuff here, right? We got
Mhm.
some stuff like we feel pretty good about some of the players we got. We feel like we can do some things, but we have to change the way we're playing to give ourselves a chance, right? Because they were putting themselves behind the eight ball so early in some of the games to where they
Yeah,
didn't even have a chance, right? They were climbing, they were coming from behind so quickly, right? And can't win a lot of games when you're doing that. They're playing relatively mistake-free football right now on offense and defense. There's no crazy busts. Yeah, they'll give up some yards here and there, right? And you wish you'd see a little bit more from certain guys or from certain positions, but you can't. I mean, these guys play really hard and they know what they're doing now, and that's the difference. Play really hard and they play fast because they know where they're going.
yeah.
Simple, right? And you can live with that. Then you can start adding more, and then you can add more pieces. You get a Jameson Williams back, and he barely plays, but like now you're seeing like the whole idea behind playing Jameson Williams in the limited snaps they did last. He was going to be a punt gunner too, but they never punted. But in the limited snaps that he got was to see how defenses are going to react to him and his speed being out there. He was 100% a decoy, right, for the most part. So let's see how defenses react to his speed, right? So then they can do things underneath him, right? With that's going to open up even more for St. Brown, even more for Brock Wright, even more for Swift underneath. DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds. I think that's going to really help everybody else. And then Jameson will get his right when they have to pay attention to everybody else along with the run game. So it's a fun team to watch right now. I don't. There's still holes, right? And there's still decisions
Offensively, it
to
doesn't
make.
seem like it, but because they've now moved into
Now,
sixth, they're sixth after they had like a string of 3 games in a row that where they were like a top one, I think top two offense,
yeah,
and then
they
that
did.
that rough patch of 3 or 4
Well, the
games.
rough patch happens because, I mean, one, some injuries, right? So it's got to be not an excuse, but it's reality, right? And two, I just think
Strength
at
of
times,
schedule was also a little rougher at the beginning.
yep, and at times I think this is when you can sit there and you can question whether Jared Goff is the answer, right? At times he can't make Goff is not the guy who can make something out of nothing, right? That's not him, right? He's not gonna play above the play call, right? He's going to run the play and play on time and be accurate and be efficient, right? But he's not going to.
That's a good way to describe him.
He's really not going to, he's not going to be Patrick Mahomes running around back there. He's not going to make something out of nothing when the play breaks down, right? Or when the defense calls a better play than your offense calls, right? And the defense got you. The best quarterbacks in the league, the top 3, 4, 5 guys in the league, can still make the play, right? The Josh Allens, the Mahomes. I would even say the Brady's, because he can't do it with his feet or his arm anymore, but he makes sure the play's right? He's changing the play at the line because he knows exactly what the defense is doing, right? So he changes it, right? But the Goff is just, he's running the play, right? He's not going to change anything, or he's not going to do anything crazy with his athleticism or anything like that. You can still win a majority of your football games with that type of quarterback, though, if you surround him with talent.
I mean, there's a reason that type of quarterback got the Rams to the Super Bowl and deep in playoff runs, and
right.
So, Jared Goff is, and this year, quite honestly, with these weapons, he has played in multiple categories as a top 10 quarterback. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if as an overall talent standpoint, I can put him in that, because obviously he's also in a really good offensive situation right now, one of the best offensive lines in the league. And, now we're seeing the 3-headed monster that, even with Justin Jackson and Swift and Jamal Williams, all getting the taste of the football and getting healthy receivers in. The fact that they're moving the ball down at will on teams without, who at the beginning of the year was our alleged top target, TJ Hawkinson. Now, they're getting the job done. Like I said, and we talked about it, this defense is starting to get their feet underneath them. When this offense was a top 3 offense in the league, the defense was dead last by a mile. 32nd in almost every major defensive category. Since then, since week 9, I was looking at it, they were dead last, 32nd, and now have moved up to 25th in defense, which it's still not great, but you look at that, if they pulled out the stats of defenses the last 6 weeks, I bet Detroit's probably hanging there at top half of the league now. That's how you move it. They were that far down, 32nd. And they've made adjustments, and they've bend and don't break, and they're not missing as many tackles. They're not giving up the big plays like you talked about.
I mean, you don't see the massive busts anymore. You just don't see. I mean, yes, they have time. I mean, the Bills still moved the ball down the field on them at times, right? And that's a really good offense, right? And it took a lot for them to do that, right? It took some miraculous plays by Josh Allen. See what I mean? Like that, those guys are going to make plays on everybody, but like. When, against a guy like Trevor Lawrence or a team like the Jaguars, where they're maybe as good on paper, if not maybe slightly worse, really even, or pretty darn even, right? You see how much better they've gotten when it's pretty much an even playing field, right? And so I feel pretty good about where they're at right now. I mean, Dan Campbell called it, a 6-game season, and they're 1-0 right now. They've got a chance. I don't hate them in every single game. Any of the games are left on the schedule. I don't hate the schedule, right? I'm not saying they're going undefeated. That's not what I'm saying.
It's hard to do. It's very hard to do.
Hard to do. But what I am saying is I think they have a chance in every single game going forward, which we haven't been able to really say about the Lions in a long time.
And we could talk about that, because I mean, you already talked about the Lions are not, because of what they did against a team that is equal to their playing field this past week. You feel good about their chances in every game going forward, but they also are playing all year pretty much like a team that's not representative of their record. They're playing better than the record. And this week they're playing a team that's worse than their record. We're this week we're playing a 10-2 Minnesota Vikings team that on the road we lost in the last 35 seconds of the game, 27-24, and or 28-24, one of those scores. And just, it was a bonehead loss. Mike Hughes blew coverage, and we lost that game as I was walking out of the tunnel of Lucas Oil Stadium. So, I actually feel good about this game, despite, the record difference. Despite us going in this game 5-7 and they're 10-2. The Vikings have a good team. another team that they don't miss tackles. They play disciplined defense. But their offense at times can just phase out. If we can do to Dalvin Cook what we've done, or Dalvin Cook or Madison, whoever's back there, what we did against Saquon Barkley, who has had a good year for the Giants, and we completely eliminated him more than any other team has done against Saquon this year. We can do that against the run game this week, and then focus on maybe double teaming Justin Jefferson. TJ Hawkinson's going to be a guy we're going to have to watch, because I think there's going to be, we're going to want our revenge game, but he might have a revenge game of his own. How does that play out against us? They definitely do target TJ a lot more than the Lions offense did. But yeah, how does this team adjust, and how do they stop a pretty serviceable or to good offense and a really strong disciplined defense? How do they move the ball on them? What do you think?
I don't know. I think they'll have some good stuff schemed up on offense. I think you'll see Jameson Williams' role increase quite a bit, I think, this week. Surprised if you start seeing him getting a lot of targets downfield, and still using him to kind of take the top off the defense and then throwing underneath to St. Brown and even Khalif Raymond and some of those other guys. I think part of it is just making sure you remain efficient on offense. I think that's the efficiency on offense has helped the defense a lot. Obviously, you're not going to score 8 out of 8 times like that, but if you possess the ball, win the time of possession, and then you don't turn the ball over, right? And you finish drives with a kick, right? Whether it be a punt with your all-pro punter or a field goal or an extra point, right? You feel pretty good about it. Because then that gives the defense time to regroup, relax, and they aren't crazy deep right now on defense at certain positions, right? They've got some players that are playing really well, the top line guys, but they aren't deep. So they can't get worn down, right? And the amount of defensive possessions, the better. And then hopefully, I think getting some pressure on Cousins is going to be the biggest key. It doesn't need to be, insane, but you need to get some pressure on him. He's not a running guy, right? So I feel better about them against, more of a pocket.
Yeah, I know. I wonder if I'd be more concerned if they still had Joe Webb and Tavares Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions have struggled with running quarterbacks. It's quite obvious, but I think, I'm not worried about Cousins on the run right now. So if they can just kind of, get some pressure, maybe force them into some mistakes. I think Ford Field's going to be rocking again. I think they've got a really good chance in this game.
It is weird to see Ford Field rock the way it has in December. I mean, since Thanksgiving, Ford Field's been pretty dead. Once the Lions get to Thanksgiving, we're usually not even considered into it. Technically, we're still into it. Yeah, there's a little bit of a run. We can afford to maybe lose one more game, and then still need a little bit of help. That Giants Commanders game did not do us any favors, that tie. So it will be interesting, but the Lions are at least a fun team to watch. And we don't have to be concerned about tanking right now, because the Rams are doing it for us, other than picking up Baker Mayfield this week.
I really, I don't want, because before, I think what I said, like early in the year, I would almost want them to just have a really bad record, but like be a pretty good team, but maybe have a bad record so you get a good pick, right? Because I expected the Rams to still be a really good team. Now, like, I'm okay with a mid first round pick if, because we're probably getting the top, at least probably 7 pick from the Rams, right?
Yeah, they got Baker Mayfield now. Who knows?
Right, yeah. Maybe number 1. No. But I think it's just really nice to see meaningful Lions football, even if I'm not expecting them to make playoffs. I'm really not. I know, like, we've outlined and you've talked about it where, like, they do have a chance, right? But I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs, and that's fine. But I do expect them, what I want is continue to play meaningful games. And if they have, if they're playing meaningful games towards Christmas and things like, then it's like, man, okay, like this is cool, right? Even if they don't make playoffs, it's still cool, and it'll be really fun to tune in. And I think the fans in Detroit, they'll always show out. They've always shown out, right? but
Yeah, it's just how loud do they get?
they're
Yeah, sometimes
really
they just do that.
appreciating this team though. I think they really kind of bought in. I think Hard Knocks is part of that. They really got the team going with that. But
That's why that 1-6 start was so frustrating for so long.
right, right, and then you're going to look back and you can say, okay, guys, if you're Dan Campbell after the year and they missed the playoffs by a game or two, it's pretty obvious why we missed the playoffs, guys. We didn't figure it out quick enough, right? We put ourselves behind the 8 ball, and yeah, we scratched and we clawed and we dug ourselves to the point where we might have had a chance at the end, but like we were 1-6 to start the year. You can't do that.
And 4-1 since. We are 4-1 since. And like I said, it's 1-0, 1-0 since last week. We have 6-game schedule. Let's get the job done.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. The state of Michigan is putting on some really fun football just in general right now. And so it'll be fun to come back again in a week or two and discuss Michigan TCU and talk about what the Lions are doing and see if the Lions are still playing meaningful football when we come back. So
yeah, if they are, we're gonna have some good conversation. So
yeah. So thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next time.
See you.